December 16, 2019 will mark 3 years since the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act, also known as RPD Act, was enacted. It is an anti-discriminatory legislation to give effect to the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. The UNC-RPD was adopted by the UN on December 13, 2006. It took 10 years for the RPD Act to be passed. The bill was introduced with a lot of agitations in February 2014. As it contained various provisions that were not acceptable, we had demanded it be sent to the Standing Committee for scrutiny. Later on, we had to agitate for nearly 2 years to introduce amendments and finally get it passed. The Act views disability from a rights-based framework. It has equality and non-discrimination as its guiding principles. It treats disabled as human beings who need equal opportunities and not as recipients of charity. To make these principles real, the Act has strong provisions regarding education, employment, accessibility, healthcare, etc. for disabled people. It also contains penal provisions for those violating the provisions of the Act. But 3 years down the line, only 18 states have framed rules for the implementation of the Act. Both the central and state rules do not contain rules for implementation of various provisions of the Act. Its provisions are being violated. Adequate budgetary provisions are not being earmarked for implementation of the Act. To put pressure on the central and state governments for the implementation of the Act, the NPRD and its affiliates are conducting a countrywide campaign beginning November 1, 2019. This will culminate in a huge mobilization at Jantar Mantar on November 25th, which will also coincide with the winter session of Parliament. Thousands of disabled persons from all over the country will sit on a day-long Dharna at Jantar Mantar. With the focus on the implementation of the provisions of the RPD Act, the main demands are here. Speed up certification and issuance of UDID to all disabled. Ensure all disabled children get education. Implement reservation and other provisions as per the Act. Extend reservations in employment to private sector. Implement 4% reservation as mandated by the Act. Give reservations in promotions. Enhance pension to Rs 3,000 for those up to 80% disability and Rs 5,000 to those with higher than 80% disability. Irrespective of BPL or APL, provide free and accessible healthcare for all disabled. All insurance schemes to be open to disabled. Strictly implement accessibility provisions mandated in the RPD Act. Railways to be made completely accessible. Coaches for disabled to be provided in all trains. Railways should accept UDIDs and should not proceed with separate IDs. Repeal discriminatory provisions of Section 3 in 3 of the RPD Act. Ensure justice to survivors of sexual assaults. Make provisions for women with disabilities as mandated by the RPD Act. Nominate disabled members to all urban and rural local bodies. Provide adequate budgetary allocations for implementation of RPD and Mental Health Care Act. No to Divyang, yes to Vikram.